With a total of 14 weapons in Nioh 3, it can be a daunting task to decide which one to really dive into first. Do I main the dual swords? What about the Odachi? I just got a great spear. How does that play? Well, in this video today, I want to take a look at these 7 samurai weapons to help you decide which is the best one for you and your playstyle. This isn't a tier list, and no one weapon is absolutely terrible. The goal of this video is to give you a sense of how each weapon performs while also breaking them down into a relative skill level so you can spare yourself any frustration if you're a newer player. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge in my videos. So with that being said, let me give you the groupings for each of these weapons. I've broken all 7 into 3 categories: beginner, intermediate, and advanced, or at least technical. Beginner-friendly weapons are the Odachi, spear, and axe. They all will give you a lot of good damage, great reach, and varying amounts of lessons to help you learn stance swapping, key management, or timing. Intermediate weapons are the sword, dual swords, and Cestuses. Each of these are a bit more technical, forcing you to learn stance swapping and reading the situation before taking the proper action to hit it head on. They are also weapons that provide a lot of utility, allowing for more verticality, defensive abilities, or just outright damage. The most advanced or technical weapons are the Cestuses again and the Switchglaive. Cestuses has a lower skill floor than the Switchglaive, but both weapons have an insane skill ceiling. Nioh 3 definitely rewards the patient player that can master the intense timing, stance swapping, and key management that these weapons demand. Honestly though, you can't go wrong with any weapon. If you're a veteran or if you're brand new, please play this game however the hell you want. I have over 50 hours in the game since I was given early access, and I can tell you that they all have their strengths and weaknesses. If one weapon feels weak, then it might just need more skill points invested in it. Remember, you can respec at any time to invest into another weapon. Experiment with all of them and come back to ones that you didn't quite click with the first time around until you find something that really works for you. Treat your first playthrough like a method of discovering the game's mechanics that's you're fine-tuned for New Game Plus, and you'll never be disappointed. But that said, too long didn't watch this entire video. If that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to go ahead and shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. If you are heading out and you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those helps me out in a huge way. You can navigate ahead to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters about the timeline and the description. And if you're looking for more videos, I have, what do I have? A beginner's guide. We're going to be doing a ninja version of this video coming out. So you can find a playlist linked in the description and the pinned comment. And you can also find a link to my Twitch below where I'll be doing giveaways of Nioh 3. But let's get started on which samurai weapons are worth learning in Nioh 3. Loading into the game, let's take a look at the 7 weapons that the samurai has access to. Now, what we're going to do real quick here before we actually dive into the nitty-gritty on each one of these is just kind of give you an overview of which weapon to choose if you're brand new to the game, maybe if you're intermediate, advanced. This is kind of not necessarily a tier list, but a list that gives you a sense of the progression of these weapons. The ones that are in the beginner and intermediate category are ones that are easy to grasp and they stay strong for the entirety of the game. The ones that are in more the intermediate or advanced category, depending on, because some things overlap, those are ones that are really going to require you to learn the weapon more. And as you learn them, their top side, their skill ceiling, as it were, is vastly, vastly higher than a lot of the other weapons. It's just that they're a lot harder to also get into. So that's how we're going to break this down. So if you are a beginner to the game, the 3 weapons that I recommend are spears, because I like the reach of spears. Spears give you a lot of fluidity and the capability to do a lot of really good burst damage while also staying at range. Axes, because axes also have a lot of the same things that the spears do, but you're going to be looking at far more damage out of the axes with a lot less reach. Also, the axe has far less of a skill demand. You could really not put any points skill-wise into axe, and it will function great from day 1 to the end of the game. Then lastly, we have the Odachi. Now the Odachi is one that is very similar to both the axe and spear in that it gets a lot of good damage that the axe does. It also has a lot of good reach that the spear does. Also, one thing that's really nice about the Odachi that maybe the spear does not share is that very little of the skills are reactive. You just simply have to press bumper X or whatever the combo is. It's just a simple combo button and that's it. So I think that these 3 weapons are going to suit you very well if you're a beginner to the game or you're just looking for something with a little bit more punch. It just so happens they are the 3 slowest weapons, but it's also ones that are going to give you a good pacing for everything. Now into the intermediate category, we're going to start off with just the sword. And I know this one's kind of boring, but the sword does have a really good progression to it. It does stand out as kind of seeming very boring, but it has a lot of good stance fluidity between low and mid and high. It has a lot of good verticality. It also has a lot of really cool transformed arts that are really punishing and are really cool. Like, I mean, just to kind of show you one really quickly, this one down here is super awesome. And it's one of my favorite abilities for sword, and it really can shine in low stance, mid stance, high stance, whichever you prefer. Now, dual swords is my personal favorite weapon for samurai, and it's the one that I use the most. And dual swords, I think, sit into this intermediate category because they do take a little bit more accessibility to break into. And that's mainly because you need to be comfortable with your ki. Your ki is going to get drained very quickly with dual swords, but you can also overwhelm the target's ki very easily as well. So it is kind of a double-edged sword, a dual-edged sword. God, I'm so stupid. But the dual swords are a weapon that has a lot of fluidity, especially in low stance. And if you're not comfortable with low stance, which is faster, lower damage, higher ki hitting abilities, then dual swords is going to take some getting used to, but it has so much mobility and speed attached to it that you almost feel like you're playing a ninja. Now, into our last two. The last thing in the intermediate category is the Cestus, which is actually also in the advanced category. The Cestus is something that has a very interesting skill floor. It's kind of like playing a fighting game. Like the Cestus, if I just click over here, you can see is very, like melee oriented, right? Well, these are all melee weapons, but I mean, it's your fists, you're punching. And the Cestus has this capability to be really punchy, very fast, really quick, and it is really cool. And it shares a very similar move set to the talons that the ninja has. So if you've already are playing with the talons, you're going to be able to kind of really feel at home with this one. But the Cestus, and this is going to help us segue into the advanced portion, does have a very high skill demand in that you have to be comfortable with swapping stances and you have to be comfortable with timing. One of the most important abilities on Cestus is Rising Gale? No, this one right here. Unbroken. So it allows you to connect a martial art to another martial art or a martial art to a normal attack. So this is all about chaining almost everything in this menu together. That is what makes the Cestus such a strong and punchy weapon. God, no pun. I didn't mean to double pun in a fucking video. But this is an ability that allows you to get so much hard-hitting power out of it. I almost did a third pun. Do you hear that? A hard-hitting power out of this weapon because you can chain things together so well. And there's a really fun, like this one's a really strong one too, and it's all about timing. If you don't have the timing on it, then you're going to mess the whole thing up. This brings us to, I think, the most advanced weapon, not even for the samurai, but in the game, and that is the Switchglaive. And the Switchglaive is, if you really want a weapon that is going to play very fluidly with swapping stances, this is definitely going to be the one for you. And it's really this whole little cluster right here that causes that. And that's kind of the situation with the Switchglaive is it goes from being 3 different types of weapon. Either in a low stance, it's this little one that you very similar to something from Bloodborne, right? In a mid stance, it's like a spear, and then in a high stance, it's like a scythe. And with that, you get this weapon that has a lot of very different combos, a lot of very different weapon attack patterns, and then the fluidity that is required for you as the user to pop from stance to stance. And the weapon does reward you for doing this. We'll talk about that when we drill down on the weapon. So if you're looking for the hardest weapon in the game to get used to, first, go with the Switchglaive. If you want something that's very easy and you don't really need to learn a whole lot, go with the axe. And this is just meant to kind of give you a presentation of what all these 7 weapons kind of fall into from a skill perspective. Can you play with the Switchglaive and have no experience in this game? Abso-fucking-lutely. Can you play with the spear and be a master at this game? Yeah, in fact, you can actually be super destructive with it. So this is really kind of a way to break down all of these in a way that allows you, a new player, or you, the intermediate or advanced player, to know how these fit into the new Nioh 3 way of playing, which is not that much different than Nioh 1 and 2. So now that we've done that, let's drill down into each one of these weapons and talk about them and how they really feel as you get to play them, and also talk about what their play style is like. Hey, you'll like this weapon if you enjoy this style of play. So let's jump into those. So to start us off, let's go into the sword. And I think the sword is, the reason we're starting here is it's the most versatile weapon in the game. I think it sits in the center of everything. It's an intermediate weapon, like I said. It's very easy for a new player to access, and it's very easy for a veteran to go crazy with. Because I think that people will look at the sword, it's one of their first weapons that they'll get, and I'm thinking, eh, this is just a basic katana. I want something crazy like an Odachi or a Switchglaive or a Cestuses. You would be wrong. There's tons of flavor locked into the sword. Because the sword, like I said, is all about versatility. A lot of weapons will focus on one stance, low, mid, or high predominantly, or they'll have a whole slew of skills for each one of those stances. The nice thing about sword is that it will share a lot of skills with a lot of stances. Like take for example, just this one. This is a mid and low stance capability. So I can use this on both, or this one, which is all three of them. And it's a really great capability, and it has an impact once I get the martial arts guide for it, because it's a transformed art. And what's nice too about the sword is it gives you a lot of capability as a beginner to evolve it as a veteran. So here's an example of the Kurama sword dance. It's left bumper X. Well, here's one that's just, this one. Left bumper X after a quick attack. And this gets even better. Left bumper X after a quick attack, and then does this. So you can see that you can play a lot with just simply left bumper X. Here's this one. Left bumper X as low stance, or left bumper X as low and mid stance. So this gives you the chance, like I said, to evolve your combo patterns. You can just kind of focus solely on left bumper and X if you want. And I'm using the E control type. That's why it says left bumper. Otherwise it would say forward and X. And not a lot of this is timing based. So it gives you the opportunity to learn the weapon without worrying about timing. And what I mean by timing is any kind of parry attacks or anything like that. Those are a little bit harder when you don't know the flow of the game. And I think that this also too affords you some really cool verticality, which a lot of weapons don't. Some weapons are just very grounded. The verticality of the sword, let alone the ninja sword, is very, very good. So it gives you a lot of fun functionality out of just simply playing on the ground. So if you want a sword or an ability, a weapon that allows you to be great in the beginning and then amazing at the end, you want something that's really versatile, very flexible, this is definitely going to be for you if you're a player that enjoys adapting to the situations that present themselves to you. Now, another favorite of mine is the axe, and the axe is very rewarding because all you need to do is press quick attack and then heavy attack. That's it. That's all you need to do. You could put no points into this entire tree and you would be rewarded with a weapon that's going to do a substantial amount of damage, and you're going to feel those big hits. It always feels great to just get a flurry of damage out. And this is really going to fit, you know, that kind of play style of a character that wants, hey, I want to do spin to win style, because the axe has a whole entire spin to win kind of category here, where you literally just hold down Y and spin that bad boy. Mad Spinner is what it is called. And that's a play style. If you want to do it, you can. You would stack a whole bunch of armor that makes it so that you have increased damage when you take damage, and you could just increase your toughness so that you can face tank everything. That's something that you could do with the axe. You could put your agility all the way into the red, which I don't recommend, but you could do that and then just face tank everything and then spin through it and damage it. So that is a capability, but you should not treat the axe like a fast weapon. It is very slow. So what I mean by that is you have to learn the pacing of how this weapon swings, how this weapon attacks, and not get yourself caught out by overcommitting too many quick attacks or too many heavy attacks and then draining your ki. You'll probably get in the beginning of the game 3, maybe 4 quick attacks before your ki is completely drained, and you have to really rely on using ki pulses to keep that ki topped off. So it is definitely one of those weapons that I think thrives, especially for new players, like I've said before, because you just don't have to do much, either from a skill, your literal skill as a player perspective, or the investment of samurai skill points into this. And I think that is something that really allows you to learn something. There's always a statement that when it comes to a weapon like this, you could possibly learn bad habits. But I think the weapon's punishing side of this is like, hey, you could overcommit and get killed. It prevents you from really falling into too many bad habits. And that's what I do like about the axe. It's gonna keep you pretty away from reactive style of skills. It's going to keep you pretty much just using things that just do damage to stuff, and you'll be totally fine. You won't be locked into trying to learn the pacing of the timing of this weapon as much, which again, that's a little bit of a bad habit, teacher, but you'll learn the game's pacing, which I think is more important. Then from there, you can learn how to do the reactive parries and so on and so forth of the axe. So if you want to play a character that is going to be able to do big damage numbers, can do big swings and big cleaves, the axe is definitely going to be for you. And if you want a weapon that does not really demand much of you from learning lots of skill combos, axe is absolutely going to be what you're looking for. So if the axe has big sweeping attacks and like kind of like higher damage cumbersome ones, the spear is a lot more nimble, and that is really strong if you want to be a character that has a lot of reach, a lot of cleave, and the capability to move around the battlefield quite well. Even though the spear kind of falls into that quote unquote slower category with the axe and the Odachi, it is not necessarily a slow weapon. It benefits from having a lot of really strong capabilities that, as you can see, give it a lot of mobility. A lot of lunging is attached to the spear. Even just this first one, Twisting Spear, where you literally lunge forward. But that evolves. You get abilities that are attached to your key pulse that are either going to be defensive or mobile. So this one right here allows me to key pulse and then move in a whole different direction. All I need to do is just simply press the key pulse button. It's great. Or this one up here, when I do a key pulse, it basically will knock things down for me, knocks the enemy backwards when you perform a successful key pulse. So these capabilities are really nice. You get Windmill here, which just does a big area of damage. It's one of the few weapons that I recommend a lot of people play high stance in because of the really damaging, really cool reach of this weapon. And it's really one of those ones too that gets very rewarding the better you are at it. Axe, it's not that it doesn't get rewarding the better you are at it, it's just that it doesn't really evolve the way that the spear does. The spear really wants you to jump into different stances a lot more. It wants you to become more mobile and lithe across the battlefield. It wants you to learn how to just completely punish someone through timing and being able to parry them down. A lot of really cool things come from the spear. And I think that that is what makes it such a really fun thing to use for a beginner that wants to progress weapon-wise to more advanced or a more expert style, because it does have a lot of mobility, it has a lot of reach, and that mobility is tied defensively, like I said, to key pulses, or offensively to its actual weapon set, and I think, or a move set. And I think those are all really poignant things of what makes the spear so good. And it was one that, like, when I was first playing Nioh 1, it's one that I perfected first, and anytime I was fighting a really hard boss, I would just default back to the spear if I couldn't beat them with my dual swords. It just is such a comfortable weapon that gives you a lot of breathing room. You just got to be mindful of not getting, I guess, pressed too hard by the enemy that you really can't get mobile enough. But again, the spear affords you quite a bit of mobility as well. So if you are a player that wants a lot of control and spacing to kind of dictate the flow of the fight, spear is definitely going to be for you. And I didn't mean to go in line with all the beginner weapons, but it just kind of flowed this way by looking at the chart at the top. But Odachi is an interesting weapon compared to the spear and the axe. If we say the spear wants you to be very stance fluid, and the axe, you could stay in one stance and just do lots of damage, the Odachi kind of fits in between both of those. It does want you to stance swap. It wants you to kind of learn that mechanic and flux being the samurai capability to swap to a different stance and get a key pulse out of it. But it also wants you to know that you can do lots of heavy damage like the axe, but you do have some mobility tied into it like the spear. I mean, even just our right bumper and B gives you the ability to do a kind of a bit of a lunge. You've got the basic capability when you hold down Y is a lunge. So there's lots of movement in this in this weapon, and as you really progress further into the weapon's capabilities, so this one right here, Ground Sweeper, is a big mobile attack, but you really need to worry about your ki with this weapon. This capability here, it drains your ki as you do it. You do it until you have all of your ki gone, but doing that, I think it's like 3 or 4, and then until you're completely out of ki towards the beginning of the game. So you need to really make sure that you are on top of key pulsing and you don't overcommit, very similar to the axe. This weapon wants you to key pulse, it wants you to flux, but most importantly, it wants you to learn pacing of combat. It doesn't want you to jump in and swing and then realize, okay, now oh, I'm red, I'm staggered, someone's just gonna completely melt my face off. It wants you to learn when to press and then when to reset. Because it has such a big reach and a big cleave, you can get a couple swings in, 2, maybe 3, and then come back and reset, setting up for the next combo. And the Odachi does have quite a cool amount of combos compared to all 3 of the beginner style weapons that I mentioned. So the Odachi will teach you those behaviors of learning combos. So if you want to play a character that has more of a structured aggression format, right? You're coming into the game realizing that you do need to worry about stances, you do need to worry about ki, but you do big hits, and you need to worry about combos, you'll all find all of that nicely packed into the Odachi for you. So now I want to talk about my favorite one, and it's dual swords. Dual swords, like I said before, is very fluid. You can jump between low, mid, high stance quite a bit. But I honestly feel that low and mid are really where this weapon shines. And that was very true of Nioh 1 and 2 as well. There are some really great weapons or great abilities in high stance, like water sword, just simply being able to hold it down. You do have a lot of really fun things in here, and you get stuff that's better as you kind of progress through it, like all the way up here. But I find personally that I like a lot of the capabilities in mid and low. And a lot of this too is even in high as well. Like some of these will say, like, if you did not know, if this has a little tiny mark in these, this is going to be in all stances. This is going to be only in mid and low, just in case you didn't know that. And we'll overlay some gameplay on top of this. But one of my favorite abilities here is Moon Shadow. So whenever I hit someone, I can immediately step behind them to do damage. It's just such a great opener. And then I've got something like Sign of the Cross, which is a very basic capability that does a lot of punching power. It hits very hard, and once you get transformed arts for it, you can move behind targets. It's really, really good. God of Wind is really simple, and you get a lot of really great stuff with even just like Mortal Flow, which is a stab. But the mid stance too, with Earthly Flow is really great. What I don't like to do is do too much stuff. Earthly Flow is one of the ones I'm about to say. I don't like to do too many of the timing ones because it restricts me to playing just that weapon. If I'm going to go with something that's timing related, I'm going to focus on that and then really get good at the timing related to that weapon. When I'm first starting off, or when I was first starting out, I was just not using any of those capabilities until I got the flow of the weapon down. And I recommend you do the same here. But the dual sword, I think, is someone that wants to fall into that dual wielding power fantasy. And I think that that's just fine. It is very rewarding, especially Dual Dragon here is so good. It just does such a great amount of flurry of damage, and it's a lot of mobility attached to it. If you get double-headed slice from a crucible weapon, it is also very, very good. There's a lot of really just strong capabilities in the dual sword, but the dual sword, I will say, is going to drain your ki very fast, and that is something you need to really be mindful of. You can't just spam this weapon, even though it feels like you can. And also, you have to also consider the fact that if you're using this, you're probably not going to be in any agility that is heavy, right? You're going to be in B or A agility because you don't want heavy ki drain while using this. So this is definitely for the samurai that wants to stay nimble, almost like they're kind of still playing a ninja, and they want to be able to do lots of ki damage while maintaining their ki. That is so important. Well, maintaining your ki is important in all weapons, but this one is truly important because of the amount of drain that it's going to put on to your ki. So if you want a power fantasy of a dual wielding samurai and really kind of tap into swapping between low and mid stance quite a bit, I think you're really going to enjoy dual swords. The one weapon that plays most like a fighting game is the Cestus, even over the talons of the ninja. This weapon is going to be all about comboing and stringing things together. If you've ever played a fighting game, you can button mash and you can be moderately successful with this weapon. It's what I mean by it has a pretty low skill floor, meaning its accessibility is there. You know, you can jump into this and just use X and Y, or X after Y, or Y after X, you know, quick attack after a heavy attack, or heavy attack after a quick attack, whichever you want to be. You can do that, and you can just hang out in mid stance and you can be just fine with this weapon. It does, though, cheat the weapon's true functionality in that it is a combo machine. I brought this up in the kind of overview of this, but Unbroken is really what makes this thing shine. Allows you to connect a martial art to another martial art, or a martial art to a normal attack. For each unique skill you connect while the enemy is aware of you, this effect will stack by 1, up to max of 10. The higher the number gets, the more damage your melee attacks will deal. Fully oops, shit. Damn, shoot, darn. Fully recovering your ki from a ki pulse will extend the duration of the skill. So this is really about mastering the skills that you get. That's what it means by the martial arts, and being able to chain all these together into a flurry of destruction. And that is really where what you're doing here. You're taking a weapon that has it feels like it's pure aggression, and it's really not. There are a lot of counterattacks built into this. Where is it? Right here. Yeah, you can nimbly avoid this. That's just jumping off. This one is parry the enemy's attack and knock them off balance while circling around them. And you have one where you lay on the ground, very similar to the talons. In low stance, hold Y after performing the second stage of a strong attack to transition into a defensive drop. And that drop allows you to then do damage either from the drop, or you can just like spin kick someone to the ground. So there's a lot of defensive stuff built into here, but you just have to be wiry about it. You have to know that it is wily about it, not wiry, wily about it, because it is related to timing and getting that timing down and being able to punish someone for attacking you. It does have a little bit of verticality, not a whole ton, but really what you're doing with this is trying to master chaining your combos together. If you are someone who likes the oppressive timing of a fighting game and trying to get iframes out of every situation and trying to push and skill all these combos together, then really you're going to be at home with Cestuses. If you've already had that DNA running through you, you already enjoy that style, you can play into it. And this is the first chance that a lot of you can play a hand-to-hand style in Nioh before. It was different than this is portrayed now. It was a whole different setup. So this allows you to really tap into that playstyle and get off the ground running, if you so wish, in Nioh 3. All right, our last one, the most challenging weapon to master, is the Switchglaive. But I think also, you know, I've seen plenty of people play this game from the start and just go right into Switchglaive. Because if you just have a knowledge of how to play these style of games, it's going to be accessible to you. So even though I said it's the most advanced, it is by no means the weapon you should not choose if you're a beginner. It's just the one that might frustrate you the most, because it is about fluid transitions from moving from stance to stance. I brought this up in the kind of tier section, right? But it's all about this thing right here, the path of 3. Cycle your Switchglaive through guillotine, glaive, and scythe form while continuously attacking the enemy. Cool, great, right? But then we come over here. So what you get to do is, you know, flux, right? We talked about flux. That is this capability. Changing to another stance on a successful key pulse increases the amount of ki recovered. All you got to do is press right bumper and then your key or your stance swap, whatever that is. If you're on PC or if you're on console, just do a stance swap. Well, this time around, follow up another attack by switching your Switchglaive into a glaive form, which is the mid stance, and mowing down enemies around you, transitioning into a mid stance. So this wants you to learn to really tap into the power of flux, meaning you're going to transition to a different stance. And with it, you're going to transition to that stance and have an adjoining attack with it. So that is kind of how this whole thing works. And then you can evolve this further into different things, holding it down to do other stuff. You can see how this works. And there's also crucible abilities on this, I believe, as well. But that is really the bread and butter of the Switchglaive. It is really about learning the flow of this weapon. Learning, and this I think too is one of the weapons that is far more nuanced in its approach to skills that apply to a single stance. This whole left tree is middle stance. This whole top tree is, well, this is a top stance, a high stance. This is a little bit of a combination. And these bottom ones are, for the most part, all low stance. You do have some bleed over here and over there. So This, more than any other weapon, has stance exclusive skills, and also it's really going to reward someone that can that can jump fluidly between all three of these stances. But you also don't need to. Like I said, if you're brand new, you could just hang out on low for a little bit in Switchglaive until you learn and get more comfortable with transitioning into a different stance style, and then learn from there. Go, hey, you know what, I'm more comfortable with mid and low now, so I can now add this into the repertoire. And you just simply reset it and do the currently displayed one, and boom, there you go, you're all set. You can now have it mid and low, or low and high, whatever you want to do. This is a weapon that will grow with you as the player. Are you brand new? Cool. Well, this is going to reward you for just playing one stance and learning that one stance, and get really good at that one stance until you can learn to transition to another one. And then it's going to really evolve with your skill set and play into the skill set that you like. So even though I said this is the most advanced, it does have the capability to really grow with the user. And I think that's kind of a cool thing too, is that it will grow in the way that you want it to grow. If you would like to, just like I said, focus on mid and low, then that's what you can do. Or mid and high, that's what you can do. Or high and low, that's what you can do. And then you can play with that over here too, to take advantage of those stance swaps, so you're getting the most out of the Switchglaive. So if you want a very advanced weapon that has definitely more of like a choose your own adventure to it, then Switchglaive is going to be for you. And for those that really want that like high action per minute style of planning out their combos and everything, this is also going to be that weapon for you. When I close our video out, I just want to talk very quickly about pairing some of these weapons with ninja weapons. I'm not going to go through a whole list. I'm just going to shout out some real quick ones that I like and think have a really cool combination together. We're going to go through three. I'm going to talk about the spear and the split staff. I'm going to talk about the axe and the ninja sword, and then I'm going to talk about putting the cestus and the talons together. So the spear here, it has, I don't think I have any skills in my spear right now. It has a very kind of similar move set to the split staff by the ninja, and that gives you a lot of really cool capability to get a lot of air, a lot of breathing room, a lot of mobility. And that I think is, it's one of the strongest things about the split staff in general. It's the only weapon for the ninja that is particularly slow, quote unquote, even though it's not really. And it has a lot of really cool move sets that give you a lot of breathing room, much like the spear does. So you get to benefit from those things much in the same way, like this one's really cool too, right? Much in the same way you do with the spear for the samurai, right? You're being able to get yourself plenty of room, you get yourself plenty of mobility, so you get to really play with those things together. Now you could put opposites into that situation. I was trying to really kind of play into what works for these items in a way that makes sense, because you learn very similar styles with both the spear and the split staff, but they're also somewhat different because of the functionality. There's a lot of hold attacks. So you hold Y to do the damage with the split staff, versus the spear is not so much like that. Now this other one here is going to be using the axe. That's our bread and butter combo right there, right? Our quick attack and power attack, a strong attack. That you can just really have a lot of fun playing with the axe. And then when you need something a little bit faster with a lot more reach, the ninja sword really has all that combined into it. And it does really reward you too with the same kind of versatility that the samurai sword has, right? You have a lot of mobility packed into this. You have a lot of heavy hits packed into this as well. Just this combo right there, that's for me, it's left bumper and X. If you're on standard controls, it's forward and X. This is a heavy hitting one that does tons of damage, and it has a lot of really cool aerial combos that pair so well with the much more grounded style of the axe's heavy hits. And our last one I want to really quickly talk about too is, it's just the fist twins here, dude. Just for going just talons and cestus. And the cestus is really cool, right? We talked about how you can really have a lot of fun with this thing. I got to go into high stance for that. And do a lot of crazy cool stuff, right? And the talons, they do borrow a lot of the move set of the cestus, but it's also got a lot more mobility than the cestus, in my opinion. You have the capability to really like that right there is so strong. You can really even, as just a talent, you can hold down Y and just do that and get a lot of punishment out of this weapon. But that capability that's built into this gives you a lot of really fun, I guess you could say, again, mobility that the Cestus doesn't quite have, because there's so much mobility built into like keying off of evades like this that really play into being a ninja, that the Cestus, while it seems like it would have matched that speed, is more about the heavier hit of this of this weapon, right? It's more about like, hey, how can I really pull and flourish tons of combos together, versus the Talons have more of a vibe that is focused on so sick. Like I'm Jean-Claude Van Damme punching the shit out of someone in Bloodsport, the Kumite. But this weapon has a lot of that functionality that, so this right here where I land on the ground, I can then push that into a really cool counter. So the fast, rapid mobility of the Talons just plays so well with the heavy punching mobility of the Cestus. But those are some cool pairings. So let me know in the comment section below, what are some other cool pairings that you really like for ninja and samurai weapons? The follow-up to this video is going to be the exact same thing just for the ninja, and I'll talk about different pairings in that video, so it's not just rehashing the same concepts, because the weapons are no different, right? So that video will be coming out here tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that, maybe the day after. Just depends on how quickly I can get it done. And if, again, you have any recommendations for fun weapons, or hey, you know what, I see that you put the Odachi in the beginner, actually I think it's advanced and this is why, let it be known in the comment section below. I want people to be able to crack into this game as best they can, because there are so many great things about Nioh, and a lot of it is tied to how deep the combat system is and how expressive the weapons are across all of the skills, the ninja arts, everything, or ninja arts and martial arts, that allow you to really pull tons of functionality. We're talking about a samurai, a lot of functionality out of these weapons. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.